Namaskar. Welcome to the fourth session on Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2. Stay inspired with Jayaji's videos on YouTube, Reels on Instagram, and regular inspiration sent directly to our WhatsApp community. Click the link in the description box to join the WhatsApp community. Connect with the Spirit and remain two steps ahead of the world. I now request Jayaji to continue with Chapter 2.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Any questions?
In the last class, you explained in verse 4 there are about some deep complexes, so like inferiority complex. So is it due to our vasanas or pre-birth or it is any environmental factor?
The question is that we had said that many of us have deep complexes, inferiority or I'm not good enough and things like that. Her question is it from the previous birth or environment? Neither. It is from your mind at this moment. Remember, we had said it is what you tell yourself that you become. Even for the child. The child has a mind of its own. And yes, when people tell the child certain things, the child gets influenced. We also get influenced. But in the end, it is our mind. So we have to accept responsibility for what we believe, what we are convinced of, what we tell ourselves. So if you believe that you're not good enough, if you believe you're less talented or less intelligent or less whatever than others, you will become that. So people with inferiority complexes are not people who are less talented or less intelligent. They just are people who wrongly believe that they are less than others. Now, this is not about being egoistic. It's about understanding the power that we have within ourselves. And this power is not attributable to the body, the mind, or the intellect. It is the spirit, the power of the spirit. And that is what we're talking about. These verses that we're doing is about the power of the spirit. And if you can't connect with it, if you can't relate to it in some way, then it all falls flat. So you have to cooperate with it, you have to follow what the wise have told us. What we do is we listen, I don't know what happens after that. And then you go back to what you are. So how does it help? Every verse that you study, every class that you attend, you must tell yourself, I am investing this time of mine. I must get a return from it. That is why I wish we could charge for it. When you go to Harvard Business School, when you go to an expensive university, you know what you're paying in terms of money. So you want to do paisa vasool. But when you come here, you're not spending money. So you think it's a walk in the park. I don't mean you, anybody. It is not. You are investing your time, which is more valuable than money. You can throw money around. But if you invest your time, you must make sure that you get value for it, right? This is not a casual walk on Chopati beach. You are investing and make sure you're getting the return. So, what is the return? And for the return to come, you must follow certain things which we say. Now, if you don't follow that, who's the loser? And this is the problem with us Indians. We listen, we say, bahut acha hai. What have you done about it? Sweet nothing. Right? So you must understand that you have problems. You don't have the confidence. You don't have that conviction. You don't have the enthusiasm and excitement for life that you should be having. So there's something wrong. And you're dejected, you feel low, you have mood swings, you have all kinds of things. So you must treat this as therapy. It's therapy of the highest kind. Because remember, anything can happen. This morning I heard of a brilliant person who was an IIT graduate, done very well in IIT, went and did a PhD from an Ivy League university, excelled in his career, and then got, what is that? Alzheimer's, dementia and Alzheimer's. 6 years of his life, he didn't know anything. Now, God forbid, if that were to happen to us, what would be our condition? Who knows what was going on in his mind? Or you get a paralytic stroke, you get, I don't know. Just like that, you could land up in ICU. As somebody said, you know why it's called ICU? Because I can see you, you can't see me. And then how are you going to be able to take it? Or there's a death in the family. You think life will go on as it is. There is no urgency. So, like for instance, to cancel a class, I think very hard. I try my best to continue the class. Ask her. Even if I have to travel, I make sure I come back before Wednesday or I leave after Wednesday. I don't take any other commitments. And sometimes I wonder, for what do I have this commitment? You people don't seem to have anything. That commitment should be there. And it's not for me. It doesn't make a difference to me. You get it? It's the mind. And it's a deadly thing, the mind. It slips, you know. You try and catch it here, it slips somewhere else. Catch it there, it slips here. Simple things. Just controlling your diet. Suppose you tell yourself, I must not eat sweets and I must not eat fried food. Try it na, for the next 1 week. Tomorrow somebody will come and say, Ray, it's my birthday, at least my birthday cake you must have. Then you will say, my best friend's birthday, she'll feel bad, so I'll eat. Straight away, within 24 hours, your conviction is gone. Why? You justify it to yourself. Why can't you say it's your birthday, you eat the cake, na? Why should I eat your cake? Can't. Why? Because we have a weakness for it. Sticking to our own conviction is so difficult. You tell yourself, I must wake up in the morning at such a time and study the Bhagavad Gita. See how many excuses your mind gives you. It's very creative. Every day of the week it will come up with a different excuse. So to harness the mind, to control the mind, is tough. And you'll do everything else. Ask somebody to come to the class on Wednesday, they'll say, I can't, I have this, I have that. Invite them to a party, they'll jump. On Wednesday itself, they'll come. What happened to all those excuses? Gone. Wedding, I've just come back from Calcutta. How many weddings they have? And with each wedding, there are 4 different functions. So it's not just the attending of the functions, it is what you do before that. You have to shop because you can't wear what you wore earlier at this wedding. I feel like saying, nobody looks at you, much less your clothes. It doesn't, do you know, it doesn't matter whether you attend or not. Because whom do you know? The bride's father, maybe. Bride's father is too busy. Nobody else knows you. Try this. Next time you are invited to a wedding, don't go. And when the bride's father asks you, I didn't see you there. Of course I was there. I even met you and thanked you. He'll swallow it. I'm not asking you to do that, but. So, to be true to your conviction is so difficult. To be true to your conscience is even more difficult. That anybody who's true to his conviction and conscience, hats off to him. We should all do Sashtang Namaskar to such a person. Okay? Any other question? Yeah.
As you say, if sin is mental agitation, what is a curse? And applying the theory of reincarnation, does the curse resurface in the next birth, or do curses have some expiry dates?
You know, this question itself is very confused. If you can.
Park or sharp? Sin and curse. Is there any correlation, or that's what I want to know. What is a curse? You have mentioned in your book that sin is a mental agitation.
Yes.
So
Sin is any action that rebounds on you as mental agitation. It is not in the action, it's in the reaction. Okay? So, last time we looked at the fact that we are paripurna. This is a fabulous concept. And if you just tell yourself that, you will be transported to a different realm. To say that I am complete, I am full, I am whole, WHOL, and I don't need anything. Just sit by yourself quietly and tell yourself this. Few minutes. After that, you go running after things. It's fun. You know? Because this is what matters. The problem with us is at every moment of our waking life, we feel incomplete. We feel something is missing. We feel deprived. And it is this emptiness that we experience within us that drives us. We go berserk, trying to fill that emptiness. Now, if that emptiness were real, you could fill it. But it's imaginary. A billionaire thinks he's deprived. He will be deprived all his life. You know Howard Hughes, one time richest man on earth. You go to America even now, you see Hughes Corporation, Hughes this, Hughes that. His companies remain, he is gone. All his life, he lived a life of deprivation. If you read his life, you feel sick. That you and I lead better lives than him. And he was the richest man on earth. He lived in darkness because he didn't want to see the light. All kinds of issues. Then you wonder, what's the point? And on the other hand, you have Sudama, who lived all his life in poverty, never felt deprived, always felt abundant. What a state to be in. Never thought that he had less of anything. So this is a goal in itself. You should set this as a goal. I should feel full. All my life I should feel full. Like when your stomach is full, how do you feel? If anybody offers you food, you say, in India, we don't say no thank you. We say not now. Which means you're not letting go of it. I will have later. In the West, you go, thank you, no thank you. There's a decisive thing, no. You know why we say that? It's sad. Because we have a legacy of shortages and rationing and not having enough. So, that paripurna, keep telling yourself, I am paripurna. This doesn't mean you just lie down and not do anything. That's tamas. Sattva is where you do your bit, you try your best to establish certain norms, but out of a feeling of fullness. Then real and unreal. You go through the 3 states of consciousness, you believe that to be real. Now you believe the waking state to be real. When you're in the dream, you believe that to be real. Which is real? Have you ever wondered? What if that was real and this is unreal? Keep telling yourself this is as unreal as the dream. So what do? Play the rules of the game. You're in it, you have to go along with it. Just as in the dream, if you were to wake up from a dream and have the ability to go back into the dream at the same point where you woke up, how would you conduct yourself? Would you declare to people that, you dream that you got married? Most single people dream that they've got married and vice versa. Married people dream they're single for relief. So you have dreamt, you're dreaming that you've just got married and you're on stage and people are coming to wish you and all that. And it's over, you're about to go down with your spouse, down the steps, and you trip, fall, you wake up. Now suppose you were to go back into the dream, you can't even tell your spouse, "Arey, this is a dream." Because to that person it's real. What do? Go along with it. How? Tongue in cheek. It's a fabulous phrase in English, which says tongue in cheek means you're objective. You understand? You've heard that phrase before? Totally objective. Whatever happens, you're not affected because you understand it's a dream. You know it's a dream. You've entered the dream from the waking. Another fabulous concept. You try it. Try it immediately after the class and see what fun you have. Nothing impacts on you. The only thing that persists is Atman. Then Death and birth, we discussed. You decide when you're going to die, how you're going to die, where you're going to go after death. Everything is decided by you. How often you're going to be born depends on your desires. So you have the choice of multiplying your desires or reducing your desires, upgrading your desires. Because you upgrade your desires, your birth is according to your desires. And the last thing we saw is weapons cannot cut you. No element in the world has any impact on you. You are supreme. We move now to verse 26.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि.
O Mahabaho, mighty armed one, even if you consider this to be born and dying constantly, you should not mourn. Now, verses 11 to 25 spoke about the indestructible spirit, Atman. Now, he's talking about, he's coming down to our level. We don't know Atman. We don't know anything indestructible. We know constant birth, death, change. So at least accept that every person born must die and that every person who dies will be reborn. That's a given. That's what he says. One who is born must surely die and one who dies must surely be born. Oh, sorry. Even if you consider this to be born and dying constantly, you should not mourn. Now 26 to 29, verses 26 to 29 says that everybody is born and everyone dies. Accept it. Arjuna is attached and so he is not able to accept. See, many times we have to accept the reality which may be different from what we want, isn't it? And one of the worst things is when you see a family member go down and die. It is a reality. It is something that is against our wish. We don't want it because we are attached. But it is happening. It will happen. And when you see the totality, you are not affected. You are not traumatized. It's only when you see it from the narrow perspective that I am losing this person that the sorrow comes. Which is why Krishna emphatically says in this chapter particularly, all suffering is because of unintelligent identification and attachment. So if you were to just disconnect, disengage, detach, the same thing happening will not cause you trauma or grief. See, it's not that you will not feel sorry. Of course you will feel. We all have feelings. But you won't get affected by it. Because you understand, you see, it's like this. When your child goes to America to study, your daughter, your son, you feel bad, don't you? But you don't sit there and mourn because you know that your child has gone for his own betterment, his own progress. So even though you miss him, you don't grieve because you understand he's gone for his betterment. Now in this case, because we don't know, there's no way of knowing where the other person has gone or where you are going. there is that element of fear and grief. It's a finality in your mind, but it's not. The totality is, when you understand the totality, which he has explained earlier, and we've gone into it in greater detail earlier, that you are the one who dictates the change. And it is for your own growth that the change is happening. And actually, there's nothing that is lost. It's like this. You see yourself in a mirror, and there is a frame to the mirror. After some time, you remove the mirror from this frame and put it in another frame. So in this frame, you are dead. Your reflection is dead. It's gone from this frame. But it's moved to another frame. So when you shift your attention to the other frame, you're there. But through this change of birth and death of the reflections, the mirror and the frame, you are still there. You get it? You are untouched by the reflection, by the movement of the mirrors, but none of that has any impact on you. You are pristine. This is a wonderful example to understand what it is. Huh? By the same token, the mirror sometimes is broken, this mirror is convoluted, the mirror is whatever. So your reflection in the mirror changes, isn't it? In the broken mirror, you appear broken. In the convoluted mirror, you appear convoluted. Sometimes, when you go to an exhibition, they deliberately have these mirrors which distort your images. Why? To amuse you. Children particularly laugh like hell when they see an elongated face or a fat face. Why are they amused? Why do they get entertained? Because they know that they have nothing to do with the distortions. The distortions are because of the mirror, not because of you. It has nothing to do with you. You are immaculate, perfect. This conviction we should carry. And then what happens? You're cheerful, irrespective of what happens. Deep down, on the surface, you might do whatever. Just as when a child misbehaves, the parents are sitting there and they take action against the child. But they wink at each other. They're not affected, they're not angry. They are just taking action against the child because the child deserves it. In a similar way, you conduct yourself in the world according to the situation, you behave that way. But within you, it's like you're winking to yourself. Are you able to appreciate that? Are you able to see that? That's a beautiful concept. So, this is it. If you know this, to be born and dying constantly, you should not mourn. You know that everybody is born, must die. Accept it. And also accept that to the extent you grieve, it is because of your attachment. So then you kick it off. Now there are people who fall in love with the sorrow itself. Hang on to it. Which is so unintelligent because you are suffering needlessly. Do your bit. Don't set yourself up for sorrow. And then in verse 30 is the conclusion. But for now, we'll move to 27.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
One who is born must surely die, and one who dies must surely be born. It therefore does not behove you to mourn over the inevitable. This is inevitable. So make an assessment of life itself, of people, of situations, of the climate of in a place. Everything you must make an assessment of your spouse, family members. And then you understand that action per se does not determine the quality. What determines the quality? Intention behind the action. For instance, a soldier fights bravely and he kills maybe 15 people. He's awarded for it. He gets a Paramveer Chakra or whatever it is called. If another person kills 15 people, what does he get? So it is the intention. A surgeon sacrifices his reputation to save a person. Impossible situation. The patient, he knows the patient, chances of the patient surviving are very slim, but he goes all out. Unfortunately, he operates well, but unfortunately the patient dies. Is it his fault? Do you arrest him? No. Because the intention was to save the patient. Now, who knows what the intention is? Who knows what your intention is in doing whatever it is that you're doing? You know, one thing you must remember, that people who really mean well for you and who are good for you are not always pleasant. But we want people to say nice things to us. We want people to not point our faults out. We want people to just go along with us. Such people are actually detrimental to us, to our growth. The person who really means well, like a parent, will call you out when you do something wrong. It is not the parent's duty to be pleasant to you, isn't it? Parent will call a spade and say, you've done wrong, it's horrible, don't do it again. You don't like it, tough luck. So there are people who move away from their parents. There are people who move away from good friends who, again, call out your faults. So what do? You court the company of your enemies, people who are bad for you, and you shun people who are good for you. This is the story of every human being. Assess. Assess the world, assess objects. See, the most expensive crystal in the world is subject to breaking, right? The moment you manufacture it, that you create it, you know it is going to perish anytime. So if you don't want it to break, then you put it in a museum. If you keep it out, you must accept that any moment it will go. When it goes, don't sit there and cry. Oh, my expensive piece of crystal went. We met someone in Calcutta this trip. Very sad. She's old, she's alone, and she needs a nurse all the time. So one time the nurse stole every piece of jewelry she had. And she was saying it's not just the value of the jewelry, it had an emotional meaning to her. It all went. And when she filed a police complaint, she named people whom she suspected who were completely innocent. And the one person who was guilty, she didn't even name that person. She got away with it. This is life. People, you must understand that all people are selfish. They will go along with you up to a point. After that, abandon. When it comes to self-interest, they will abandon. You must understand that from the beginning. So this doesn't mean that you don't maintain relationships, that you don't have relationships. But you must understand everyone has her or his limits, beyond which they will not support you. It's like you're in a boat which capsizes. Huh? And there's you and the other person. You have to decide which of the two will survive. Only one will survive. What will you do? You quietly push the other person off. And 5 minutes before that, you could have sworn love to that person and say, 7 janmas I want to be with you, and all this poetry. But when push comes to shove, you will quietly pull the plug on the other person. And so will the other person do to you. So this is an assessment. Life itself changes. So there's nothing in the world that is dependable. You must understand that. The beauty of the summer is its heat. When it's really hot and humid, and sometimes the power cuts just when it's extremely hot. You're sitting there feeling uncomfortable, sweating away. At that time, you go out into the balcony, spread your hands and say, the beauty of the summer is the heat. It is the beauty. The beauty of winter is its biting cold. Have you been to the north of England in November? I'm not even talking about January when it's extremely cold. Oh, you feel the wind go through your bones. At that time, you're craving for the heat of Mumbai. The beauty of winter is its cold. The beauty of birth and death is life. And the beauty of your spouse is the short temper. You accept that. If you don't accept it, you'll be miserable. So it's all about assessing, accepting, enjoying. Get it? Next time you complain, oh, it's so hot here and sweaty. Think of Arctic Circle, Arctic region, how cold it must be, even in summer. And they have like 3 months of complete darkness. Do you know that? The sun never rises. So then you understand we're better off here. Yeah, the question is, when you assess and accept a person, how do you avoid the bitterness? Now, this is a paradox. When you assess and accept, there is no bitterness. Bitterness is there only when you don't assess, don't accept. See, when we say assess and accept, it's not just the bad qualities that you're looking at. You're looking at the person in totality. The person has so many good qualities and maybe 1 or 2 bad qualities. Why are you looking only at the bad? You get it? So there's something wrong in me. The person it's like the person has 9 good qualities and 1 bad quality, and I'm focusing only on the 1 bad quality. I need to go to a psychiatrist. You get it? So if I have bitterness, there's something wrong with me. That's number 1. Number 2, You can't correct anybody else in the world. That person will change only if he or she wants to change, isn't it? So why are you looking at, oh, you must change so that I am happy with you? That's an impossible demand that we're making. Number three, I have so many bad qualities. I'm not looking at that. So my stand is, I am an angel, only you are the devil, which is another foolish thing, completely foolish. Right there you can see, I mean you can't see, but others can see that you have more faults than the other person. But you don't see it, you think I'm the best. That's called illusion. Delusion of the highest order. So I can go on and on, but it's fundamentally wrong to get bitter about somebody else's fault. You can spot it, you need to figure how to deal with it. So that you don't get bitter or the work is not affected or whatever it is. Like today they saw. Now I was away in Calcutta for so many days, I've come back. Now what happens when you're missing? People just do whatever they like. So one maid came at 9 o'clock instead of 10:30 because she wanted to get out early. The other one came late. Third one just left things as they were. So you need to take action because otherwise the house can't run like this. Is everyone doing whatever they want? But the test is internally, are you disturbed? So you accept that here is a person who has this quality of ducking work. Everybody does that. Who wants to work? Unless there's supervision, they will not work. So it's like the cat is away, the mice are at play. So fine, you come back and say your holiday is over, buddy. Get back to work. But that doesn't mean you fire a person. So there are two things. One is accept. First assess, accept, enjoy. But take whatever action you need to take so that you are not affected by somebody else's fault. And that action you can take only when you're objective. If you get affected and you pull a long face, it's like you're suffering for somebody else's fault. I commit a crime, like I eat a whole lot of chilies, my stomach is fine, you get an upset stomach. Does that make sense? So why are you suffering for other people's faults? That's another thing. So you have to keep using your intellect and give yourself reasons why you are going wrong. Correct that. Forget about the other person. This is another very important teaching of Vedanta. Don't suffer for someone else's fault. Other person has to suffer, will suffer. Next verse, 28.
अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना.
O Bharata, beings arise from the unmanifest, remain manifest in the middle, and end in the unmanifest. Where then is the sorrow? What a beautiful verse. If you understand what it means. See, this cycle of unmanifest to manifest and back to unmanifest is going on everywhere. I don't know whether you've wondered, when you drive from Mumbai to Pune, especially on the old road, The new expressway is like, well, a little apart from nature. Now if you go, the hills are all brown, very little vegetation. And then the first rains come. Barely once or twice it has rained, and you drive along, the whole place is green. Have you noticed? Where does it come from? Where does all this vegetation come from? And then soon after the monsoon, when you go, again brown. So it was unmanifest in seed form because there was no water. And then the slight water, light sprinkling of water, and it bursts into the manifest form. It's green, the flowers, leaves, different shades of green. Beauty, splendor. And the moment it stops raining, again it goes back into the unmanifest. It's like vasanas are like waves on the surface of the ocean. They're always there, the waves. But watch, again, go to the ocean and watch what's happening. From the ocean, from the mass of water in the ocean, a wave emerges. It starts. It's so beautiful when it's born. Have you seen it? And then that wave gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it crashes down and it's gone. So it starts from the unmanifest, it manifests and goes back into the unmanifest. Tatra ka paridevanam. Where is the grief? Where is the trauma, if you understand this? So, you walk on Marine Drive. I've been walking for many years. You actually see generations pass. There was, when I started walking 25 years ago, I was young and there were old people walking. At that time, only the elderly walked because they were told by the doctor, you must walk. And I was the odd young person there, walking. I must have been, 23, 22. And then recently I went again and I saw, Hare, that whole generation has gone. And then what's happened? My generation has become old. Even those known to me, one has got paralysis, another got a heart attack, third something else has happened. And I came back from Marine Drive thinking, someday mera number bhi aayega. Something is going to happen to me. And then the youngsters have come. So in your lifetime, you can see one generation go, completely gone, the whole generation. And the next one comes. And then the younger one, and the younger. This goes on. Like Matthew Arnold said, life is like an arrow, shot from darkness, flutters in the light for a while, and goes back into darkness. That is your life, my life. So in the whole thing is a mystery. Where did you come from? What are you doing here? Where will you go? Nobody knows anything. But in the midst of all this change and mysterious happenings, what should you do? Do your duty. Do what you ought to do to the best of your ability and depart when the time comes. That's it. Are we doing that? No. What are we doing? Interfering in everybody else's life. Isn't it? Oh, you should be doing this. You are not doing your bit. And what am I doing? Nothing. So, do what you ought to do, knowing fully well that I don't know what's happening. Whole life is a mystery. To believe that you know is the height of arrogance, because you don't know. You don't know anything. You don't even know when you're going. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how long you're going to live. Nothing. Next, 29.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्.
One marvels at the sight of this. Another speaks of it as wonderful. Another hears of its mystery. Even after hearing, no one understands this. So when he says this, what does he mean? Huh? What does he mean?
This knowledge.
Atman. Who said that? One person is following. So, Atman is immanent and transcendent. Means it pervades the whole world, immanent, and transcendent. It exists beyond the manifest world in its pure, pristine form. Atman is beyond the purview of the body, mind and intellect. So you can't contact it through speech, sight. You can't see Atman, you can't feel Atman, you can't touch Atman. You can't connect with it with the mind. You can't conceive of it. Therefore, what is left is just Ashcharya. It's so beautifully put. Something that is beyond your intellect, you can only marvel at it. You know, you see a beautiful sunrise, or you see a full moon, it's beyond your comprehension. Say, Ashcharya. That's what it is. That's what he's saying. One marvels at the sight of this. Means you see the Niagara Falls, you go and see the Himalayas, you see a vast Ganga river, you see the source of the Ganga, I don't know, so many things you can see, and you marvel at it. Another speaks of it as wonderful. You describe it. When speaks of it means a poet, like Wordsworth. He was a master at presenting nature. Like in Daffodils, he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. And then he describes the golden daffodils tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The way he describes it, you feel you're seeing it. So one speaks of it as wonderful. Another hears of its mystery. We hear it. Even after hearing, no one understands it. So when you're at a low level of development, you need a magnificent expression to think of Atman. Like you see the Himalayas, you see the Niagara Falls, and you say, oh, there must be God. At a slightly higher level of development, a beautiful sunrise or sunset is enough to spark you off. Still higher level, an ordinary flower, like Wordsworth talks about the daffodils, is enough. And you don't even have to pluck that flower. You watch it from a distance and you're in raptures. At the highest level, you don't need any expression. Because to you, you experience Atman with every breath. Even that is an expression. You don't need expression. You're constantly connected with Atman. It's like when the internet was first introduced in India. You remember? What was it? A dial-up facility. So you had to dial into a number and then get connected. And there were at one point so many people trying to dial up that by the time you got connected, you got disconnected. It was so frustrating. And then it became cable connection. But even that was slow. Sometimes you had to go home to get connected. Now it sounds funny, but we've experienced it, right? Then broadband came. But even then, you had to be at a location where there was broadband. Now there is Wi Fi everywhere. You know, in the US, you go to a university, the entire university, miles and miles of this thing is there's Wi Fi. All you have to do is connect. You need the password. And our password to connect with Atman is, huh? Correct. Spot on. You got it. The Bhagavad Gita. Because without it, you can't. See, when I say this, I don't have a fanatic attachment to it, but you must accept that here is a text of outstanding caliber, that every verse speaks of Atman, connects you to Atman. Now, this wonderment, there are miracles going on all around. Every moment of your life, you can see a miracle. You can think of a miracle. Like Robert Browning called it the imprisoned splendor, called Atman. Imprisoned splendor. It's imprisoned in your body, as it were. But you must have that password to connect. Huh? You must have the subtlety to connect. And that's what he's saying. Otherwise, you hear of it, no one knows it. And that element of detachment from the world. Otherwise, you're tied around something or someone in the world. No? You're sitting here, you could be thinking of what is there for dinner. What does it matter? Whatever there is for dinner, you eat. Otherwise, you have the choice of not eating. If you don't have that detachment, you hear, you see, you're inspired, but then you fall flat. It's like a chicken flying, you make an effort, pat, 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 pat. By the time it's off the ground, again it's back on the ground. Why? Attachment. Same thing with us. You try and take off into spiritual heights. You can't because you're tethered to the ground. You're tied to something or the other, someone or the other. You got to loosen that. Then you take that mighty leap into the unknown and life changes forever. It's never the same. So, it's like Plato's metaphor. The guy comes out into the open and sees what you and I see every day, but we are not inspired, and he's in raptures. He enjoys it for a week and then thinks of these people back in the cave. He goes back there to pull people out. He speaks of it. The sun, moon, stars, they don't understand what he's talking about. So they dismiss him as mad. They said, we always knew he had some screw loose somewhere. That is an enlightened person. So when he speaks, he knows we will not understand. But what a magnificent effort to get us lifted to that state. Even the Upanishads. So he says, I don't know it. In the Kenopanishad. Not that I don't know it, because when he says I don't know it, the student is about to leave and go. Not that I don't know it, I know it. Those who know it, know it. Those who don't know it, also know it. By that time, you've given up. You don't realize how lucky we are, how fortunate we are that we have this knowledge available to us. We have access to it. So you take it for granted and you trample upon it, you deny it, you ignore it. But once you have that awakening, some element of awakening, it won't let you Leave it. It keeps calling you again and again. That's why I see people, they dropped out for a few years, again they come back. Again they go for a few months somewhere, again come back. Very few people are steady. Next verse. 30.
देहि नित्यमवध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
O Bharata, this, the indweller in all bodies, can never be killed. Hence, you should not mourn for any being. So, in this verse, he is summarizing. Whether you look at us as Atman or you consider us as constantly being born and dying, whichever way you look at it, this, the indweller. Indweller means Atman. Can never be killed. Means not just killed. You can't do anything to Atman. What is Atman? You. See, you must read it like that. This me, I can never be killed. Means nothing can happen to me. I can't be burnt, I can't be wet, I can't be blown off, I can't be, nothing can happen to me. Things can happen only to my clothes. Yes, clothes can be torn, clothes can grow old, the color can go. So many things can happen to the clothes, but not to me. Clothes means body, mind, intellect. These are our vestures, these are our coverings. The real me cannot be killed. Hence, you should not mourn for any being. So there is no grief. Grief itself is taken away.
Last verse, I couldn't get over it. What prevents me from experiencing that, derivation?
Atman.
No, wonderment and all that. No, I can't experience what you are trying to project. I'm still stuck there.
The question is, what prevents me from getting into that phase of wonderment? What prevents? You know the answer. Attachment. See, even when you go and see a sunrise or a sunset, or you go to the Himalayas, or you go to Niagara Falls, you relate it only with what you're attached to. There are people who go to the Niagara Falls and say, I must come here on my honeymoon. What wonderment is there? You think of honeymoon, it has neither honey nor moon there. Huh? Okay, you've destroyed the whole thing because you connect it only with my me and mine. Disgusting. The thought of self is the most disgusting thing. Got it? So you must be free from that. Only then your mind can soar. You go to the Himalayas and say, oh, I must bring my children here. Let them be. For a change, just be yourself. Without all this bondage. And the best part is you're attached to people you don't like also. Huh? Once I met a group of ladies invited me to lunch in London. So I went there to some Italian restaurant. Excellent food. But these women were not even, first of all, they took time to order. Then after the food came also, they were not eating because they were discussing, guess what? Their respective mothers-in-law. And really tearing the mothers-in-law to bits. And I was happy eating because, normally when people invite me, they ask me questions, so they don't allow me to eat. Here I was very happy because they were talking about their mothers-in-law and I was the only one eating, enjoying the whole meal. After a while, when I saw I had finished eating, they were still not, they hadn't even started. So I said, where is your mother-in-law? One said, Los Angeles. Second said, Mumbai. Third said, Hong Kong. Where are we? London. So I said, it's obvious you don't like your mother-in-law, but why are you carrying her here? Why don't you eat your food? Enjoy what is before you. Anyway, mother-in-law is far away. Let her be. You can't even enjoy. Wonderment you're talking about. They will only wonder at the mother-in-law. This is the problem. We are not only attached to the people we like, we are also attached to the people we dislike. Isn't this attachment? Clear sign of attachment that you're thinking of a person who's not even there. That is the problem. So, you can't kill, you can't do anything with yourself. So 11 to 25 gives the highest philosophy. 26 to 29 gives it from the layman's point of view. And this verse 30 is the final punch. Boom. This, the indweller, can never be killed. So, constantly he is saying, do not grieve, do not mourn, do not saying. Again and again he is saying you should not mourn. Why? Because we are constantly grieving over something or the other. Oh, I should not have married. I should have done my MBA. I should have started a business. The other day a young girl told me, what am I doing having a job and earning a salary? Look at these guys with startups. I said, for every startup that works, there are at least 30 that don't work. And even the startup that works, after a while, they use up all the money and they become bankrupt. This is the story of startups. So be happy where you are. This is the greed. Now, if you want to be happy, what must you do? Because the law is that all unselfish people are happy. All selfish people are unhappy. So to the extent you are unhappy, you must understand, I am selfish. You can't beat the law. You may not accept it, but you will be sorrowful until such time as you are selfish. So, when you are selfish, you are unhappy, you become unselfish, you become happy, and only when you get to the selfless state do you experience infinite happiness, which is what you are looking for. So, this Dehi means indweller. You're living inside the body. Both go on and on. So, your subtle body, causal body, the mind, intellect and vasanas also move from this body to another. So, the only thing that changes, that you leave behind, is your physical body. It's like leaving behind your car and moving on. So what are you crying about? Problem is the mind. The mind gets attached wherever you go, whatever you do. You come here enough number of Wednesdays. One Wednesday, if you don't have a class, what happens? You feel something is missing. So don't get detached from this. This is a positive attachment. But it's attachment. Even a toxic relationship, the mind gets attached. Then you don't want to let go. That's the problem. So live a life based on obligation, objectivity, then your life becomes a constant entertainment. You just have fun wherever you go, whatever you do, and no problems. It's like Lord Shiva, who realized the self, he couldn't hold his bliss, so he dances the cosmic dance. That is the thing. Because he's overflowing with energy, dynamism, joy, sheer joy. That is our real state, not this. You know? Not this means, even if somebody smiles at you, how do you smile? The hint of a smile, that Mona Lisa smile, and then back to the sulk. From there to Lord Shiva's cosmic dance. Even if you're not a dance, you'll be dancing. Dancing with joy and cheer, right? So with this, we end for today, and we'll meet next Wednesday. Now onwards, we'll be meeting every week.
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः